This is the American Indians, indigenous peoples' truths. Justice for all, the most dangerous show on media anywhere. OCO and greetings. Hi, Leslie. How are you?
Hello. How are you? Halito.
Alito. I'm Jay Winter Nightwolf, the originator of this broadcast. Jay Winter Nightwolf Speaks or Jay Winter Nightwolf Live. We have two very interesting people on with us tonight. I've known them for quite a while. And I think it was less than 2 years ago, I performed their wedding ceremony here in Maryland with all the right paperwork. My good friend, Cesar Lopez, and his wife, Fabiola Lopez, have been victimized by this United States government. Cesar was in the United States Marine Corps, where he served honorably and was honorably discharged. But he's catching hell trying to get his citizenship. So Cesar, are you there with me?
So before we start, we need to do our land acknowledgement.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and do that. Let's pause for a moment to acknowledge the traditional stewards of the lands that we reside on, and especially their ancestors, descendants, and all indigenous people who live now and have ever lived on this land that we call Turtle Island and beyond. But more than acknowledge, let's honor and support our existing indigenous communities by helping them continue their land-based practices, traditions, and way of life, by dispelling false narratives about their history and people while promoting their authentic truths, helping them heal from past wrongs and offenses, and assisting them in protecting and restoring back to health the land, nature, and the water, which brings life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Leslie.
Let's go ahead and bring in Cesar and Fabiola.
Oh, absolutely. Cesar, Fabiola, how are you?
I didn't hear them, but Cesar and Fabiola were here.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Can you hear them?
We heard a little bit. Maybe Jay was talking, but we couldn't distinguish what he was saying.
Okay, give me 1 second. How about now?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
No.
Okay, can you hear me now, Cesar?
Let me try something else. I'm going to pull them out, and let me just try something else so that you can hear them.
Okay.
We have them dialing in by phone. All right. Can you hear now?
I hear a bad echo.
Yeah, I barely hear. Can barely hear him.
Go ahead and speak, Elder. Can you hear him?
Okay, can you hear me now, Cesar?
I can hear you faintly, but I can hear you.
There's a lot of background noise.
It's not coming. It's not coming from here.
All right. Let's go ahead and start.
Cesar,
Yes, sir.
it's been a great honor to meet you and know you and Fabiola.
Hi, Jay. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure knowing you and having you in our lives.
Absolutely. I remember when we performed your wedding ceremony here, and I could say,
Beautiful. Thank you.
I could say Indian style, the way we used to do it. So I want you all to give me your story. So let's start with you, Cesar. You got a very interesting story, and you have always been dedicated to taking care of the soldiers and the Marines. Tell us about that.
Well, okay, I'm a Marine like yourself, and being a Marine has been one of the greatest honors in my life that I had serving my country. And I love the Marine Corps, but I also found out that we're getting veterans deported, and that's something that goes against our beliefs of being a Marine, never leaving a man behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I dedicated the last 10 years of my life to correcting that injustice.
Okay, so I know that you also have stepped forward and done some amazing things. You even did a video on it. Tell us about that video.
Well, sir, one of the ways that I thought was going to be to raise awareness on this issue was to start doing, raising awareness by going to the Congress people and confront them in that way. And during some of the events that I did, I got contacted by Netflix, and we created that documentary, Immigration Nation, where it brings spotlight to the plight of deported veterans.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's an excellent documentary that you did. So you ended up getting in trouble with immigration. But I have to point out that when you were in the Marines, you had resident status and you served honorably. So is this the way they repay Marines or service people that are not from this country? Is this what they do? Can you hear me, Cesar? Shall we continue, Leslie, or should we set this up for another time when we're not having all these problems?
All right. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So this has been a practice of the U.S. government since 1996, after the Immigration Reform Act of 1996, signed into law by Bill Clinton. One of the unintended consequences of this bill was to remove all immigrants that committed crimes in the country. As I mentioned, this I believe an unintended consequence of those bills, because a lot of us veterans, when we get out of the service, we have a lot of issues. We have some mental issues more than anything. I think we have a lot more mental issues than physical issues, and that creates challenges to adapt to civilian life. And a lot of the times we get in trouble with the law, and a lot of us that got in trouble with the law also got deported because of the change in immigration. And that's what the country, the government has been doing for the past 30 years. But yeah, I still, there's a common saying for some of us veterans that we love our country, but we hate our government. That's where we are right now.
Can I just interject right here? So
Yes,
essentially
ma'am.
what you're saying is that a lot of our veterans aren't able to conform to normal life, be it due to post-traumatic stress disorder or anything like that.
Yeah, PTSD. Yeah.
So
That is correct.
and then as a consequence, if you commit a crime, and in your case, it was a drug-related crime, they found that as a reason to deport you to a country, even though you served with the U.S. military. So
that is correct.
So my question is, if this is the case, and you've dutifully served this nation, where is the caveat? What is the disconnect between the government, your service, and your crime? Which, if you committed the crime and you were you served time, or the time was expunged, where is this caveat? What justifies them sending you back to a country? In your case, a country you haven't seen since you were 4 years old.
Well, I found out that government processes, when it's in their benefit and in their goals, they're very efficient, and they move really fast on issues that concern them. But when it is about giving a benefit to some of the citizens of this country, they're really slow, and they try to not give those benefits to the citizens. So I think that that's the disconnect. The government is, by getting rid of so many immigrants, they were trying to feed the immigration pipeline industry, the prison complex, and they didn't care who was getting caught in that. Same way with veterans. In my particular case, I suffer from PTSD, and it was recorded on my military record. And instead of getting me a medical discharge because of psychological reasons, I got an OTH, so I wouldn't get any benefits. And right now I'm in the process of still fighting that. So like I said, the government, when it is about giving a benefit to a citizen, it takes them forever. It's taken me over 20 years to get anywhere near getting this issue resolved. And but when it comes down, like if you owe taxes, they take them right away. So that's the disconnect, I think. That when it's for them, they're really fast on it. But when it's for somebody else, they take forever. They stall. They try to prolong it. They know the government will continue, and human life, we only got a certain term of time.
Okay, we do have a couple of questions from our audience members. The first thing I want to ask you is, what is OTH?
It's an administrative discharge that is other than honorable discharge.
Okay.
That way, they don't give you any benefits.
Okay, my question is, what did you do? What did you do to get this OTS?
What did I do? I was just a Marine, sir. I kept on challenging authority when the Marines are not supposed to question authority, but when they were being, I was being targeted by my commanding officer because of my ethnicity. I was too young to just stay quiet and take it. I always fought back, and they didn't like that.
But you know, since then, you have you're an educated man. You're an engineer, and the military is not paying for your education, right?
No, I have paid all my education out of my pocket.
And what are you getting your degree in? What, engineering?
Yes, sir. Mechanical
Okay.
engineering with a minor in solar.
Okay, which would be ultimately beneficial to this country.
That is correct.
Okay, go
One
ahead,
of our
Loki.
audience members wants to know, are you currently in the United States or are you in Mexico?
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been residing here for the past, I've been here since 96. And I got deported to Mexico in 2013. I stayed 3 weeks over there, and then I came back home.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, what is your status?
On July 27th, I had my last appeal denied. And they said the reason for the denial was that I took too long to appeal.
Oh, that's a bunch of crap. That is bureaucracy at its best.
Yes, sir.
So, has anybody come to your rescue to try to help you in Fabiola?
No, sir. No politician has taken out the mantle and try to help us with this issue. They all, and I have met hundreds of Congress people and senators, and they all promise help, but when it comes down to actually doing something, nobody has ever done anything.
Well, you know what, Cesar? I'm going to say this. You actually went into the Marines to protect this country, whereas a lot of these congressional members, they wouldn't allow their sons to go into the military. So how do you feel about that? I mean, now, if you were, and I'm just going to say it, if you were a white boy, it would be altogether different, wouldn't it?
I agree with you on that, sir. I believe in it that there's some flaws, but at the end of the day, like I always said, joining the Marines and being part of the Marines has been one of the greatest honors of my life. And regardless of what type of commander I had or what the government is doing, the Marine Corps is what made me the man I am now.
So what was the result of the Netflix documentary? I know that some people were pardoned and were able to come back and gain their citizenship. What was the result of the documentary?
Well, the result of the documentary was quite positive. I did manage to talk to Joe Biden when he was running for the presidency and with Kamala Harris, and they promised to make some changes in the law to bring deported veterans back. And they did. They created new policies for DHS, not laws, but policies to stop deporting veterans. And they also created NVETS, a small department within Homeland Security, to start bringing deported veterans back. And I believe about 100 of the deported veterans have been able to come back with humanitarian visas, and some of them with full citizenship. But because I was the troublemaker that would expose them in the news and everywhere and every chance I got, they're not so keen on helping me. But it's okay, 100 veterans are home, so it's a fair trade in my opinion.
How many are deported?
I made contact with about 500 deported veterans all around the world.
500.
And there's got to be more. Those are just the ones that are still trying and actively hoping to come back home.
Go ahead, Leslie. I hear your brain ticking. Go ahead.
No, I'm just disgusted.
Oh, I'm highly pissed. Yes, I am.
I don't understand. I mean, here's the thing. The military is usually pitched to individuals who are of color and I have a certain socioeconomic status. And you know that the majority of us fall into that.
That's right.
So
they need warm bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we have these gentlemen serving the nation, getting their education, trying to be members of our society. They protect and serve us. And yet, when they come out, there are no facilities to assist them with any mental disorders they may have as a result of war. And they're treated as subpar. Even their health care is subpar. And this is what we do to our individuals. This is what we do to the people that serve and protect us. And then if they commit a crime, they're not given any type of counseling, any type of restitution
or representation.
And if they were someone from a foreign nation that served who got their citizenship, they send them back. And I can imagine that the majority of our individuals who serve that come from another nation are from nations that are considered crime-ridden, like Mexico right now.
Third world countries.
Yeah, what we call third world countries, where there's no opportunity, and you would send them back.
And another thing on that note is that, especially for Mexican citizens, it's a crime for a Mexican citizen to serve in the military of another country. So if I were to go to Mexico, I would be tried for treason in Mexico. So I can't go back and I can't stay. Where do I go?
Have you been bothered by immigration since you came back?
No, that's one of the funny things, because the first time they deported me is when I was coming back from vacation, and it was totally unexpected. Not in a million years I thought that the U.S. was gonna ever deport a veteran, and when it happened, that's when it was like cold water on my face, you know. And when I came back and I started making noise in Congress and Senate, I told them, if you guys are going to deport me again, you're going to do it in my dress blue, so you know that the American people know for sure what you guys as government are doing to veterans. And it's something that I never got approached by Homeland Security. Not after that.
My question, what was the process of deportation? What was that like?
The process was that I came into on the international flight into the Houston airport, and they detained me there. They kept me for about 24 hours at the airport deportation station, and then from there they took me to a detention center outside of Houston, where I was there for 4 months when I was trying to get a lawyer to help me.
4 months? 4 months, Cesar?
Yes, ma'am. They had me locked up for 4 months. And they said that the reason they had me locked up is because I was going to run away and not report to court.
Oh, that's a bunch of BS. You know, that's nothing but the white man doing that to you. You know, they won't send their sons to war, but when we decide to go to protect this country, what do? They kick us in the butt.
Right.
And and I know you don't want to say it's racist, but I'm saying it for you. it is a form of racism.
Oh no, it's obvious.
Oh yeah.
And that's the other thing. It's obvious that it's a racist process. It's a racist procedure, and but it's still in the books. That's our that's the way we operate as a country when it comes down to immigration and serving veterans.
The thing is that this has been habitually highlighted in America.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
happens to our veterans when they come back here? And there has been no improvement. And yet and still, when I walk into a underserved area or community here in the United States, there is nothing but recruitment centers everywhere. So
Well, not only that. You know, my nephew Ian, who was a Green Beret, served 2 tours in Afghanistan and 2 tours in Iraq. And when he got out, they wouldn't give him his benefits. So I found him living on the streets of DC. And I picked him up and I brought him home with me, kept him for 3 years. And we fought for a very long time to get him his benefits. And he was suffering with PTSD so bad that 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I could hear him because he was in the bedroom downstairs in my home. They're coming after me. They're coming to get me. They're coming to get me, Uncle Jay. And I would walk down the steps and turn a soft light on, and I would have to call him. I said, First Sergeant Ian Simpson. Sir, yes, sir. Who's that? I said, it's my Uncle Jay, boy. I said, nobody's coming to get you. You're in my house. Oh, I thought they were coming to get me. I said, no, don't worry about it. Now, if that's happening to men of color that are born here in the United States, it's got to be at least 100 times worse for men and women of color that have served honorably from other countries. It's a crime. It's a crime.
let me just say something. I also have something to add to that. My stepfather was a Vietnam veteran. He served his country. And for many years, he fought because they had given him the wrong Social Security number.
Oh, yeah.
He had to prove that his Social Security number was wrong. He had to take it all the way to a Missouri senator. And finally, at the last 10 years of his life, it was resolved. But let me tell you what happened. My stepfather was in special services, special forces.
Mm-hmm.
They expunged people's correct Social Security number
On purpose.
On purpose. He came back and he had accommodations when they found out, when they put him under his correct security number, Social Security number. He had a Purple Heart for doing special forces during the Vietnam War. And in his last few days of his life, or last years of his life, he was very troubled. He did not go to sleep peacefully.
Yeah.
That was in his mind. That war was in his mind. Now, one thing I could say about the Veterans Administration, he went with his other, battle mates and talked over his issues.
I'll be right back. Go ahead.
But the point is, it took him that long to prove that he had served, that he had rightfully served, and that he deserved all the credit that he needed to receive. So if this happened to a U.S.-born citizen, I can only imagine how this must affect young men who come here trying to make a better life, go to get an education, join the military, and find out after they commit a crime and they're not given the services they need after a war, that they have to go back to a battle zone. I mean, it's just sad.
And yet, Cesar, you still say, I love this country and I love serving.
I do. Because I grew up American. I mean, it's like an abusive relationship, you know. Like, I guess I must be having a little bit of Stockholm syndrome because I've seen the best of America. And I've seen the worst of America. Unfortunately for me, I also received some of the worst parts of America, but none of the good parts of America. Not yet, but I'm still fighting for it. I still believe in the dream. I keep on getting in trouble, in good trouble, necessary trouble, because that's what I learned growing up. So it is what it is. Some of us have a bad draw on the cards of life, but we got to do the best we can with what we are given. And that's what I'm trying to do. Just trying, while the government keeps on putting me down and saying that I'm a criminal and this and that, I'm trying to show them that I'm not. I haven't done anything wrong in the last 22 years. I'm getting my engineering degree pretty soon. And it's up to them. If they can still see me as a criminal, then it's not my problem. I made my peace with God. I made my peace with myself. And I'm just trying to move forward and try to open the eyes of the country to the injustices that some of us immigrants and persons of color, we face every day.
Let me just add something.
But I do want to say something real quick, Elder.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us, the people of color in this country, love this country.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're treated the way we're treated.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I got a story to tell you. My good friend, Eagle Claw Victorio, who was the great fifth generation of grandson of Chief Victorio of the Apache Indians. He fought in Vietnam. He was special forces. He won all kinds of accommodations. And then he passed away about 2 years ago from cancer. His wife, who is a very good friend of me and my wife, she just passed away about 3 weeks ago from cancer.
Okay.
And she had been fighting for years trying to get Eagle's service records. She found out from somebody on the inside that they had expunged all of his records and everything else, only because he was a man of color. He was a Native American. Why is it that they continue to do this to us? And why won't they go after the criminals that happen to be their white sons for things they do? They find excuses. They find ways to remedy the problem. But for us, it's a one-strike deal. You do something wrong one time, or if you're suspected of doing something wrong, then they're coming after you. And this is the same mentality that they brought across the Atlantic Ocean 600 years ago when they decided that they didn't want what they had in Europe, and they came over here and put their feet in our pristine waters and bountiful homelands, and they wanted what we had. The same white attitude that came across the Atlantic then is the same white attitude of privilege that they use now to maintain their power, maintain their bottom line, and blame somebody else for everything that they do wrong. So what more can you expect out of these idiots?
Well, here's the thing. Depending on where they came from, if they came from a socioeconomic status as a white person that was living in poverty level, they suffer the same as people of color. Because this is not about color. This is about socioeconomic status. That's what this is about.
Right.
So the lack of support for the poor, the immigrant, and the person of color in America when they join the military is the same. Most of these you would say people that have position in America, their
The
sons and
privilege.
daughters, yes, their sons and daughters don't serve as privates or anybody else that goes
Mm-mm.
first in battle.
No.
They obtain a higher level position. So this is what's happening. We're living in a, I would say, a created caste system here in America.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
And you know what? I had a real good friend, lost him about 10 years ago. He was a very famous Indian. His name was Dr. Jack D. Forbes. And he was professor emeritus at the University of California, Davis. He wrote the first proposal for the first American Indian University called DQ University. And at the same time, he was a visiting professor to Oxford University in Europe. And he wrote this book because one of the times he was at Oxford, the head archaeologist in Ireland approached him and said, Dr. Forbes, we got some artifacts here and we don't know where they came from. Can you look at them? He looked at them. He said, these are Native American artifacts. Well, where did you get them? Well, we just found them. We don't know what to do with them. And he discovered that before the white man came here and claimed that he discovered America, Indians from the northeastern part of the United States sailed across the North Atlantic and discovered Europe 100 years before Columbus said that he discovered this place. So this goes back. I mean, this is a deep hatred that they have for people of color. And you know, the first people that came here to America to see us were the Chinese. This book tells the truth. The second people to come here were the Phoenicians. And they want to claim that the Phoenicians were white sailors. They were not. In fact, they were from Africa. And they had already established international trade on the high seas. And some of our people from the northeastern part of the United States traveled with them on their big vessels. So I don't want to hear anything about, you know, excuses. I've had my fill of excuses. I'm 75 years old, and I'm not taking it anymore. And now we got a Lakota Indian that's been sitting in prison for 48 years for a crime that the FBI knew he did not commit. Let me show you what racism looked like. They said at his trial that we know that an Indian is responsible for this attack on the FBI agents in South Dakota. So Mr. Peltier, Leonard Peltier, is that Indian. And they knew he was nowhere near that place when that happened. They knew it. But this is how this white society and government treat us.
Let me just make a comment. Morena's comment about the way the American government treated the Irish when they came.
Yeah.
So just want to be some clarity here. You're absolutely correct. What we know as race in America is a new construct.
Yep.
So anybody that came here that was considered subpar from the colonists, the elite colonists that were here, were placed in the same level as Black, Indigenous, or whatever. It was not until later that they started separating us by color. So the Irish were often depicted as monkeys and apes in all of their propaganda.
Yep.
And if you notice, a lot of people of color here in the United States, or people who identify as African American or Black, have Irish heritage.
Yep.
Because we were all one community intermingling with one another. It was not until they started seeing the mass of mixed race children that they thought there was going to be a takeover. And so they started separating us.
Well, you know something? When I was a little boy, my grandfather owned the last set of working stables in Washington, D.C. And he had a good friend that owned a plumbing supply company. And I went there with him one day, and Petey and I used to play all the time. And I remember going into Petey's grandfather's office and seeing these big signs that said, "Help wanted, Irish need not apply." So they're even racist towards their own damn people.
No, because like at the end of the day, Elder, this is about money. And it has something to do with your social economic status. But they had to have somebody.
That poverty cycle. That's one of the things that I have found out in my 30 years that I've been trying to correct everything that I did when I was young. Because that's the other thing. I'm an immigrant from a single mother, so I didn't have anybody show me how to be a man until I joined the Marines. And not having a male figure in my life, a father, I think it sets you back. But I did manage to see that early on in my life. And when I had my daughters, I made sure that they understood that, yes, they use race as the number one factor to keep us down. But at the end of the day, it's like Miss Leslie says, it's all about money. So they want to keep us fighting each other, and they use our race to pit us against each other. But at the end of the day, it's all about money. It's the billionaires keeping control and all the profits, and keeping the circle of poverty just being it's one of those things that keeps on going forever unless you find a way to break it. And I think I found a way for my daughters to break that cycle. So I am grateful for that.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right, Cesar. And yes, Morena, the majority of the Irish that came here came during the potato famine. They were poor. And I am the result of that. I am the result of an Irish woman and a Black man who were working as indentured slaves on a riverboat, and they married each other. So yes, they were poor.
Well, you know, I got one thing to say that I would like for Fabiola. Do you have anything you would like to say? We haven't heard from you.
Oh, she went to take care of some stuff, Elder.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
We have a minute left before we're at the top of the hour. Cesar, how can our community support you?
Well, the community can support me by contacting their. It will, for my case, it would have to be my Nevada congressman, Senator Congressman Horsford, to encourage them to contact Vice President Kamala Harris and to have them convince them to do a non-prosecutorial discretion on my case. It's the only thing that can be done to help me in this sense.
And do you have a web page that anybody can go to, or do you have a petition?
Usually, because I'm barely getting everything together. I'm also like I mentioned, I'm in school. I'm the president of the HVAC club, where we do 100 PMs for seniors and veterans at no cost. And I'm also a member of the student government. So I hadn't had time to start a petition in my favor. I was just kind of committed to helping the community in that sense. But I'm barely taking time to help me.
All right. Morena she said she was going to reach out to Kamala Harris directly. I also feel that if our community starts a petition, we might be able to do something.
Yeah.
You're saying a lot.
I'm all for that.
So maybe we start a petition here on our channel.
Okay.
That would be great.
So, Cesar, do you have any closing thoughts before we break off?
Closing thoughts are that I still believe that America is a wonderful place for everybody. We just need to work together to get to that goal, and I still believe that we can all live in peace in a prosperous country where our differences are what makes us stronger, not what makes us weaker.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you for
Leslie,
having me.
you're very welcome. Leslie, you got any closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are this: always educate yourself. I want to always tell our audience members to read. And what we said here is very important. This is about money. This is not about race. When we stop thinking about race, we can become unified as people who are not wealthy. Because I'm going to tell you this: there are some wealthy people of color up there who don't think anything about us that are making.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So this is about communities coming together despite race, but because we are not wealthy and because we are the ones that actually make this country work, we must become unified. I say, when you have conversations about race, consider the socioeconomic quality of that person, and then teach them about unifying so we can be a greater force to be reckoned with when it comes to our government.
You know, I remember a song that went something like this: "It ain't a damn thing funny. It's all about the money."
Yeah.
I would like to make this closing statement. When I was a little boy, we went down to South Carolina every summer to spend time with my grandfather and my grandmother and my aunties and uncles. And my grandpa built this big round table around a big oak tree. And we were running around, little boys playing. And he would come out and look at us. He said, do you boys know what it's all about? And my cousin Mikey would say, no, Grandpa, what's it all about? He said, your brother or your sister do not have to look like you to be your brother or your sister. He said, it's not about the color of your skin or the color of your eyes. It's not about the clothes you wear. It's not about the texture of your hair. It's not about any of that. And he would look at us and stand up and he would say, do you really want to know what it's all about? Mikey would say, yeah, Grandpa, what it's all about. It's about how you treat my heart. That's what it's all about. So America, you need to wake up. Wake up to the reality of the truth about why we are here. I believe that God put us here to take care of each other, nothing else. To make a way out of no way, nothing else. And when the potato famine was going on in Ireland, it was a Native American tribe that put together their pennies and sent stuff to Ireland so that they could survive. So think about that. Think about your humanity, not about your color. Think about who you love and why you love them. So I'll say to you again in the words of Cherokee, Danada, Goai, Wado. And Wado in Cherokee means thank you. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. I love you all of you, even those of you that make it almost impossible to love. I love you in spite of yourselves. Talk to you next week.